finish, and that makes this an incredibly important game, not just because of the guaranteed more money and the chance to take the 1-0 lead in the grand finals. No, it's being seeded into the winner stage, which is really going to change your entire weekend in Dallas.
Oh, yes, it is. It is going to be super important. In the bottom right, from Basilisk and looking to, well, have a great run this Americas, it is Trigger.
And Trigger already practiced a lot with this lovely Zerg in the top left side when he was still just an up-and-comer. And, you know, he was good, but he wasn't quite there yet. At this point, Trigger is there. And I'm sure he always knew that by the time he would reach the upper echelons of American StarCraft, this lovely Canadian Zerg would still be there. After all these years and representing the Shopify Rebellion, it's Scarlet.
Well, I'm excited to see what kind of series we get, because, you know, sometimes I think of Scarlet in this Americas region, I'm like, man, yeah, you know, I really think back to, like, the days she played against Neeb, and she was doing all of these, you know, she had super long games, middle of the map, kind of, you know, spore crawler wars versus cannons against Estrella as well. I think of a lot of times that Americas went late with those two playing EVP, but I'm not sure if that's quite the Scarlet as of late, who plays, to me, a bit more of an aggressive game generally. And I think Trigger is... I can imagine Trigger trying to go along as well. Like, to me, this is a very interesting series, especially because I haven't gotten to catch up with as much of Americas this season as I would have liked. So, you know, just kind of fun, because I haven't really caught up in these guys in a while.
I'm with you. I do think it's very interesting, but it's also incredibly difficult to predict because Scarlet, what has stood out to me is that her mechanics are still on point. Her creep spread is as good as ever. Her ability to go for one-buy, set up good engagements while having good transitions and solid macro behind all of it, it's all still there. But Scarlet, like many other Zergs, does not love playing late-game EVP at the moment. You know, a lot of the Zergs have given up a little bit on the Broodlord. They just feel the Broodlords don't deal enough damage. Stalkers can just blink forward. And dealing with a Protoss that's on 4 or more bases, has double Robo, has Storm, Archons, Immortals, is not something that any Zerg seems to get very excited over at the moment. And that includes Scarlet. So that could mean that we get to see a very aggressive Scarlet, but not one-dimensional aggression. It doesn't just have to be, oh, we're going to go for a Roach Queen attack, or we're going to go for a Nidus, or it's going to be Roach Swarmos. Like, Scarlet is really flexible and is just capable executing all these different builds at a very high level, which will make it a difficult series for Trigger to get ready for. Because you know stuff is coming, you know it's very unlikely Scarlet is just going to let you sit there, expand, and build up a terrifying army. You've got no idea what's heading your way.
Yeah, that's very true. It is, the unknown is going to make this a difficult series for Trigger, as he does open Stargate and expecting a lot of that throughout the course of this series. Safe, standard ways of opening and getting set up into just, you know, reasonable positions where you can defend if necessary. You can kind of deal with, you know, a move into mid-game if you would need to. All of that goodness. As Ling Speed is going to be finishing up in a moment here from Scarlet. A couple of Adepts coming through and a couple of Lings getting hit. Queen is there to push the Adepts back out the center.
Yep, really good unit positioning so far by Scarlet. Trigger does find a creep tumor. That's something, a little bit of damage on one of the Adepts, but it is just nice to get in there. And even if these scouts may seem completely pointless, they're not pointless. Because if Scarlet would have been on just 2 bases, or do something crazy like make no links or make a crazy amount of links, your Adepts need to be there. They need to give you the heads up immediately that that kind of stuff is happening. 9 out of 10 times it's standard, but the one time it's not standard, you need to see it ASAP. And that's exactly what Trigger is doing. Trigger should go, oh, I love that pile, and I love that pile, and Trigger is actually playing really good so far. In the end, we'll finally lose 1 Adept, but that was 1 Adept body for 10 Zerglings. I mean, you gotta be happy with that if you're a Protoss.
I would say so, man. That was a lot of Lings going down. We sneak in here at the Oracle. We get a drone, take a little bit more than just shield damage, but nothing too major. Let's just have the couple of Queens. The drone's also still coming up from Scarlet. Just continue to get set. Now the Ling's going to come in for round 2. This time the Adept is caught quickly, and that will go down. These Lings will get a wraparound on the next Adept as well. Pylon can still be used to kind of block the next warping in a little bit. But yeah, Scarlet obviously wants these Adepts. She wants some revenge for earlier on, and she's going to kind of get it. She's still at a cost of quite a few of these Lings. Finally, the Oracle comes back. That is going to be go time, but a lot of Lings dead in the end.
Yeah, so now it's 21 Lings that have fallen and 3 Adepts have gone down. Trigger definitely was forced to make a few more Adepts there. I think he was planning. The timing of the Lings showing up was perfect, because that second Oracle was more than halfway across the map, and Trigger didn't really want to turn it around, but then he saw extra Lings. He's like, okay, I guess I have to send the Oracle home. In the end, by the time that the Oracle finally made it home, it's just the Adepts that took care of it. It's a bit annoying because as a Protoss, you don't just want to make sure you go up to 3 bases and take out a couple of links. Your Oracles want to be on top of drones on the other side of the map. And Scarlet has lost a lot of Zerglings, but at least he has not a lot of loss of drones. Only a single drone in a soon-to-be 6-minute game, and that is something that will spark joy to the heart of every Zerg out there.
Well,
more links.
Yeah.
Links.
Just so many, and going into that melee upgrade, it's going to be very Ling heavy continuing into the next stage of the game as well. We'll continue with them Lings as we do wrap around these Adepts. The Queen's here for some extra damage. The Adepts actually melt pretty quickly. Gonna get one. I think if the Queens didn't stop to creep, they would have probably had another, but Adepts get away. To be fair, the later this game goes, the less effective Adepts are going to continue to be, so not the end of the world. These Lings do sneak around and just going to keep a check on what's up. The Adept is out of position. That was a moment and a half that Scarlet just missed out on.
Yep, that could have been incredibly painful for Trigger with one of the Oracles on the other side of the map as well. Bit of a strange start overall by Scarlet, by the way. Maybe just prioritizing getting a quick 4-base setup, focusing a lot on these melee upgrades because the lair was quite late. Scarlet was working with only a single gas for a very long time. Now we went from 1 all the way up to 6 gases. A Roach one has been dropped. Could be Mudalisk, right? With 6 gases plus 1 melee. And Trigger has actually gone a Robo first instead of just Twilight. So we don't have Oracle into Blink Stalker. It was Oracle into a quick Robo. Now we have a lot of gateways coming online, Templar Archives. And Scarlet is even going up to 5 bases already in the bottom left side. I'm incredibly curious what Scarlet builds here. It could be just a Hydra then, but I was thinking the Spire, and it will be the Spire in the middle of all these bases.
Yep, big map. Honestly, good map for mutas in general, so something that Scarlet will look to utilize as Trigger sets up with the attack right now. A couple of Mortals, a few High Templars going to morph into Archons, so this attack has a bit of potential. 14 Roaches, though, is going to be the investment that Scarlet needs just to make sure she's not really in trouble against something like this. Well, I'll see what Trigger can do. He's still going to move forward with this. He's going to test the waters, move on to creep. Doesn't have a way to clear it just yet, though. The drones will evacuate, so Scarlet not sure about fighting on the low ground. Will be up on the high ground instead. Especially as Queens and Roaches, and also the Spire is right there, so that's a scout for Trigger, right, if he notices it. As the Lings come around the back, but that is going to be where the Oracles are, so they can help. The Archon will go down. No Prism here, Roddy, so we are just going to lose these tech units.
Yep, it took a long time before Trigger saw a lot of Zerg, and by the time that he saw the right amount of units, it was already too late to save some of these key units. There was some good potential there, I think, in the Archon, Immortal, Zealot attack, but Scarlet did a really good job in being patient, waiting for the right moment for these Lings to show up. And yeah, you said Trigger was right next to the Spire, but is that something you're really looking at? Looking at the production tab, since he's dropping his second Robo and he's just cranking out Immortals, I don't think he saw the Spire, as silly as that may seem, because he was standing right next to it. He didn't know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I kind of realized in mid-sentence, I was like, well, actually, would you actually notice that that's a Spire? Like, I don't think you'd be paying attention, especially when you start losing the tech units. Prism loads up there, but that, those units are going to be in trouble as well very soon as mutas are popping out. This is looking bad for Trigger. He has no preparation against Mutalisks right now. This is a game where he has no Blink, Storm on the way, but that's about it. Oh no, this is not it at all, Roddy.
Yeah. Or well, I say 2 more Robos. This is 1 more Robo, right? Because we already called out the second one. But yeah, triple Robo, Immortal, Zealot. That's going to be really good against everything that's on the ground. And it's just not good against the Mutalisk. Trigger was so focused on that battle, trying to target down some Roaches, trying to make sure that, I guess, the reinforcement would show up in time, that he didn't click on that building. And if you take a look at his vision, yeah, that could have been a spine, right? That could have been a spine or a spore in the middle of the battle. You may not necessarily think that that is the place where there will be a Spire. Now he knows, but I'm afraid it's just a little bit too late. At the moment, we've got 0 units that shoot up. Nothing. Absolutely nothing shoots up.
Nothing at all. Phoenix on the way, which is obviously something, but it's obviously not a lot, as the mutas are already going to be diving through. This mineral line is just completely exposed. I mean, probes will start to pull away just as some other probes are showing up. They didn't realize that they were about to be under attack. Nobody told them as we move. I mean, just across. Storms do come in, but the High Templar goes down. Obviously, the Phoenix is going to be a pretty easy target here as well, because there's only one of them. There's just too many Mutalisks for this situation, and we're warping in Stalkers where we can target down a few of those. Remember, there's no Blink to keep them alive or to maintain them. So Scarlet is able to do very well with these mutas as she now comes up, plays up these Zealots, and just gives the Roachling more longevity in the game as well.
And look at the macro. Scarlet always spending every single penny, even though she's working with 5 bases and 84 drones. That will do it after 10 minutes of Golden Aura, where Trigger had an alright start, even if he didn't find a lot of economic damage. and that is often what you look for as a Protoss. It felt that Scarlet made so many links that that's the economic damage you're dealing, because those links could have been drones. It's not drones, and if you take out that many while barely losing anything, you gotta be happy with it. Maybe the attack could have been a bit better, right? If Trigger brings the War Prism, instead of keeping it very safe in the back, if he brings it a bit further forward and he starts juggling those units, A, he takes a better fight, and B, he sticks around long enough next to that Spire that eventually he may look at that and be like, wait, that's taking forever to build.
Yeah.
That's not a Spine or a Spore, that's a Spire. So yeah, maybe if he brought the War Prism to the front, it could have all been very different.
Yeah, could have been a completely different situation as we get ready for Game 2. Crimson Court is going to be the map. What do you think about Crimson Court on ZVPs, Roddy? Anything you like about it? And it's been one of the maps I've been enjoying myself just a lot, just kind of watching, so...
I like playing on it when it was double and triple rocks, because I'm like, yeah, I can open up Stargate, I don't need to get Warp Gate, I can just go straight into Mass Phoenix Carrier and having the time of my life over here. But now that it's a single set of rocks, there are just too many rocks to worry about, and you kind of do need some basic units to deal with stuff like links. I feel in this matchup, we've seen a lot of very aggressive builds from the Zerg. I think any base or any map that has a base with a rich Vespian geyser in the center, Zergs like to take it. And it becomes a bit hard to play against it, because as a Protoss, you know it's there, you know that the potential is there of Roaches, Queens, Ravagers walking to your natural almost immediately is likely, but you can't be overly passive. You can't just sit there and already start building cannons, because if you then don't need them, and it's something like Mutalisk, it's like, alright, well, now I'm kind of screwed, because I just don't have anything that's mobile, so... I think it's a fun map for us neutral spectators, but it's incredibly stressful to play from the Zerg and Protoss point of view, because Zergs, they did have to deal with some weird 2-base Protoss all-ins, and that can also be annoying, so fun for us, maybe not that fun for the players.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a weird map. I've enjoyed watching it, though. Like, I say this a lot, but like the choices of expansions, like, hey, oh, do I go down the side? Do I take the center? You know, obviously in this matchup, sometimes you take that rich Vespian gas early on as well, with Zergs kind of getting blocked on a natural, so the opportunities for kind of different games kind of spout from the very first few moments, which I always think is very cool, very fun. As in the bottom left, it is going to be our blue Zerg as we get to resume this series. This is going to be, from the Shopify Rebellion, Scarlet.
Just want to point out, by the way, that Scarlet has been on an absolute rampage so far in the regionals. He went 2-1 against M. Canning, but that's the only map that Scarlet has lost this entire regional so far. And then it was a 2-0 and a 2-0 in the Swiss format group stage, and 3-0 into 3-0 in the playoffs, and now a 1-0 lead in the upper bracket final. So incredibly strong run by Scarlet. That makes for 11 map wins in a row, or even 12 at this point. That's pretty impressive. Top right side, it is our Canadian Protoss player representing Basilisk, down 0-1. Played a sick best of 5 yesterday against Kalazur. This is Trigger.
Try and find a bit of that momentum once again, bit of what he was bringing yesterday in the PVT applied to this PVZ. It did just feel like he got a little kind of ahead of himself. He's like, stepping on creep, hey, there's no Zerg. Whoa, she's given up the 4th base. Run up this ramp, I don't think there's going to be anything here, and how wrong that actually was, so a little bit of a disaster in the end.
Wow, look at this.
That is a proxy hatch and a half, Roddy.
Oh, has Bly been DMing Scarlet again? Like, you know, Bly on fire, Scarlet on fire, Neep on fire. It was a thing for a long time. And Trigger has scouted a little. Trigger knows that this is a pool for us, but that's kind of the only thing he knows, since that hatch is so close. What Scarlet could do here, by the way, is a Queen Zergling Spine Crawler rush. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's actually a play. Unfortunately for us, Scarlet is going to go ahead and drop the Roach Warren. And yeah, that's also a play, because then you can just take that rich Vespian geyser. So your gas is late, but yeah, then you have double gas income, so that's going to make up for it. This is a cool build by Scarlet, and Trigger really needs to start figuring this out. We'll see drones heading to the other side of the map now. I don't know if he immediately realizes what this is, though. If I see this, I would be worried about spines. But okay, now he has confirmed it, by the way, so he knows what's up. Zealot is out, Stalker is in the production tab. I guess the best defense here is just a whole bunch of Stalkers and shield batteries.
Yeah, batteries are huge because they can just make single gateway units so much better. There's our first battery going down. On cue here from Trigger as Scarlet.
I don't know about this, by the way. I don't know if this is the play.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, we're in no pressure to put pressure on the Zerg. You know, there's no reason to be here kind of being the aggressor. And these are just probes off a line, not, you know, helping out at all, really. Oh, a little funky.
Yep. Some people may think like, shouldn't Trigger just go for a Stargate here and then you build a Void Ray and then you win? It's kind of awkward because Void Rays just don't kill queens very quickly. So then it's one queen, then it's a second queen, then there might be a Spore Crawler, and you just find yourself in a really uncomfortable spot. A Robo would definitely not be a bad choice. Immortals are just always good. But I like the idea of just getting a couple batteries, a couple Stalkers at first, because every single time Trigger shoots at these Ravages, that's almost permanent damage until the queens can actually transfuse a couple units, but they won't be able to transfuse that many. Meanwhile, the Stalkers, they can tank damage because you have the shield batteries to heal them up. So I'm absolutely loving the defense of Trigger so far, other than that little probe pool. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, well, we are very nearly going to get a Ravager there. That's such a good transfusion. As we are going to see these Stalkers. Going to drain the first battery. Now Overcharge is going to pop. Good. Biles love the position of them. Stop the Stalkers kiting back, but I'm happy to move forward instead. Extra Ravagers coming in. We are still building some drones behind this. The Scarlet is going to have, honestly, not the worst economy of all time. It's going to be better than perhaps expected. She's taking another gas at home as well. So she's going to have Extractors for days, gas for days, as many Ravagers as physically possible. This is all going to be about that high damage output of the Ravagers and Corrosive Bile ability. She put some Biles onto the Cybercore there as we lose a Stalker. Obviously, Trigger's got to be careful to not let that go too far, as Biles on these batteries would be huge, and that's what we're going to get this time to knock one of them down.
Yep, that is -1 battery, and obviously minus a Stalker. Finally, the first Ravager goes down, but Trigger is about to go up to 4 gateways. May have to rebuild his Cybercore, by the way, as another battery does fall. You don't want to lose your Cybercore, because then the only thing that Trigger could warp in are slow Zealots. And slow Zealots will just never ever get on top of Ravagers. If Ravagers have creep to work with, one Stalker is in a very awkward spot. Scarlet is microing this incredibly well, and Trigger, okay, does get a battery overcharge, does find a few Ravagers. Cybercore needs to be healed up right now. The battery's not doing anything. Trigger realizes, and he is gonna at least bring that Cybercore back to full shields. Couple of Ravagers, very low HP. Still think there is a chance for Trigger, but he needs to stop bleeding out all these units.
Yeah, the unit losses are going to hurt. I mean, he did just clean up a bunch of the Ravagers. That helps a lot. Trying to get the Queens in front to absorb damage right now is a big part of Scarlet's plan to just keep these Ravagers protected. There is the Cybercore now dropped, by the way. So now we do have another one up already. So that's all good. As we have this Ravager on the top side. Chase, but doesn't go down, and losing Stalkers again. Every time you lose a unit, it's so painful. You're right, though. 4 gateways should help a lot here. Scarlet's army supply is growing and growing.
It is growing, but I actually think losing that Cybercore in a weird way helps out Trigger a little bit, because now it's a bit easier for these Stalkers to dance back and forth, get in and out of range, fire a couple of shots, and then run back to the batteries. I think having a slightly bigger wall here helps you. You don't have to worry about the link float. There is no Zergling speed. That is the 3rd overcharge of the battle. He's been very Trigger happy with these overcharges, but hey, it's kind of working out, as we are trading Stalkers for Ravagers here, but Ravagers are a little bit more expensive. Scarlet, her army supply is indeed ridiculous. Trigger, I don't think is doing a lot of things right, but since he hasn't built probes, it's not like he's economically ahead. And we can't really say that every second that goes by is a good one for Trigger, because Scarlet, if anything, is mining more because of that rich Vespian geyser. And she's starting to look like Scarlet will just get the job done here with a good old mass Ravager rush, Waddy.
Just more and more Ravagers. I mean, they are really just getting rebuilt faster than the Stalkers are at this point. Another nice transfusion as well, just as the Queens get energy back. The Ravager is saved, and that's a heartbreaker for Trigger, because every Ravager you kill feels so good, so to get so close and then be denied is not brilliant. We're going to see Stalkers again here in trouble, as they're just not close enough to the batteries to get the healing immediately. That pylon's powering a bunch of those batteries, right? Yeah, 2 of them on the top get depowered immediately there, and that's obviously a concern. Losing pylons is not pretty. As our Ravagers keep coming through, going to jump on top of these Stalkers. Biles onto the Super Battery. We can actually bile the Stalker that was warping in as well. Super Battery disappears, and the Ravagers just believe they've got enough damage output to kill Stalkers now, and they are not wrong.
No, they absolutely do. Don't even think the Trigger handled this all that poorly, but Scarlet, her micro was just top tier. The transfuses were clutch. She kept all those Ravagers alive for about as long as he absolutely could, and in the end gets the job done after 7 minutes of Ravagers fighting versus Stalkers and shield batteries. What would you have liked to see different, Waddy? Because I don't think the double gate battery setup initially is good. Maybe after 2 gates, you can build a few more probes, try to either go for something like a Twilight Council or a Robo for some War Prison potential, but I don't even hate what Trigger did. and yet he lost in a pretty one-sided way in the end.
I wonder if it's just like a very fine difference. Like even, you know, when those probes are just not doing anything, it's like, well, if you guys just go do something and he has a couple more units and saves an extra stalker here or there, is there a tipping point? Because there was a moment or two where I thought Scarlet was about to lose too many Ravagers to really be scary anymore, right? And I think you mentioned it, you know, at some point too, it's like Scarlet was doing an amazing job microing. Like she was keeping Ravagers alive on low HP all of the time. I think it just comes down to that. I think the setup in general is correct. Like, the time it takes to get actual tech online takes way too long. I think gateways, batteries, it's the right idea. Just, it's a control factor, maybe.
Yeah, and maybe taking out the Cybercore or rebuilding the Cybercore earlier would have actually really helped Trigger. Because then it's a bit easier for those stalkers to stand in a line. It's very annoying if you have 4 or 5 units, but then they have to basically go in a little train to go through a choke point, and then only 1 or 2 of them can fight while all the Ravagers are standing there in a perfect concave and they can get all their shots off. So yeah, maybe it was a bit of micro and a bit of the wall working against Trigger. But I also do think though that you need to crank out a few workers. As scary as that may seem, I feel like if we're going 2 base, there should always be a moment where you can get a couple workers, and then once you have a few more workers, you're gonna end up with more units, right? That's the basic idea of StarCraft 2, where you get a slightly better economy and then you get more units. So yeah, fine line, I guess, but we can definitely say that Scarlet microed her units incredibly well. Clutch savers. At one point I was like, did even a single queen die? And apparently 1 queen fell, but those queens, they just stayed alive for so long. And it's not that they were AFK in the back, sitting pretty, saying good luck to the Ravagers and we're here to transfuse you. No, the queens were tanking, they were battling, and yet they survived forever. That's really impressive.
Yeah, that's actually a huge point, because the queens tanked a lot. I'm surprised only 1 died, because they were constantly in the front. But that makes sense why there was constantly, again, more transfusions and more moments in which we did not see those Ravagers dying when it felt as though maybe we'd broken through them. Impressive all in from Scarlet as we get into Game 3 and hoping to turn this series around. It's now or never for the Red Protoss in the top left. Trigger.
8 map wins in a row in the playoffs, and quick math, 13 overall at this point in the entire ESL Americas Masters Spring Regionals. An incredibly impressive streak. Can we get a 3-0 in the grand final, or in the upper bracket finals as well? It is the Shopify Rebellions Scarlet.
Well, this time the drone is going to go build a hatcher on the natural, and it's not going to be blocked from building it on the natural either, so worth noting that that does just get to go into the normal location, no problem at all. Scarlet gets a hatch started, waiting for Trigger to obviously get expanded up, obviously see what tech choice he wants to make. This map I feel like is pretty fun for PvZ. You can encourage a lot of cool airplay. The base layout kind of works quite nicely for this matchup. Would be a fun one, but I also am a little bit afraid that Scarlet's up 2-0 and she might just be like, okay, cool, I've got a couple maps to just kind of, you know, throw, you know, attacks at you with and see if you can hold. Scarlet is not the player to shy away from that.
Swarm hosts are pretty popular on this map as well from the professional Zerg's point of view, and there's a lot of great spots for swarm hosts. You can do it with Nidus, but if you get a couple Cryptoists through the left side, they can actually just walk back and forth as well. And of course, down the line, you can add in the Nidus to make them a bit more mobile. But yeah, Roaches, Ravagers, Queens, and Swarm hosts, they tend to be pretty popular here too. To double check, by the way, but it is indeed 13 map wins in a row for Scarlet in the Masters. That's pretty crazy. I would not have predicted that. Obviously, Scarlet comes into this season as one of the top-tier favorites. We all look at Scarlet. We look at Australia. Trigger is the dangerous outsider. Special, Calazur. For Scarlet to win 13 maps in a row and now be up 2-0 in the upper bracket finals. Pretty insane, man.
Wouldn't have, you know, you're right. I wouldn't have guessed it. Just not the expectation at all, right?
You think it'd be like Scarlet is up there, but even if C is in the upper bracket final and C's taking the lead, or C ends up winning the upper bracket, you'd be like, yeah, but I'm sure C had to work really hard and fight for it. And I'm sure C did, but 13 map wins in a row. Yeah, that's numbers don't lie. That's incredibly impressive. Scarlet, the low-key, the most dominant of any player in any region so far.
Seems like it, as we do see a little bit of a curveball from Trigger. He's going to drop down that Twilight Council, so we're going to be moving ourselves in towards a Blink upgrade. Not Blink, sorry. Glaives upgrade. Apparently it's been a long day for me already, even though we've been speeding through the matches. So most likely,
a long day, mate.
Glaives coming through. 8 best of 5s is long even if the games are quick. Oh my god, it is Blink. I'm just a genius, Roddy, that's all.
Yeah, that's sick. That is. I feel like Goblin. Didn't Goblin have a build like this a while ago?
Well, like,
that he.
it's super aggressive and then just go,
Yeah,
go,
it's
go.
just two base, like 6-7 gate Blink Stalker all in. I don't know if he did with a robot though, so maybe that's not it. I'm the feeling that that's the build that Goblin used a long time ago to eliminate Elaser from the group stage. Where Elaser needed to win, Goblin was already eliminated, and then he hit him with a 2-base Blink Stalker all in on Everdream or one of those maps from a long time ago.
I actually remember that.
Yeah, that was a irrelevant win for Goblin, but an incredibly painful loss for Elaser, who was then eliminated based on maps because we used round robin back then. Anyway, 4 gates, Blink, a Robo. Trigger is at least thinking outside of the box, and I'm very happy to see that. Maybe this is something that is specific to Amphion.
Yeah, maybe there's some sort of setup and Blink across position that you really like. Is we do take gas at the front, try and do we really need a 4th gas here? Or is this just faking it for the Link Scout?
No, well, maybe that last one is indeed fake. We're going to take a look at what did the Overlord see, because Scarlett, her Overlord, was in the main base, did spot the 2 extra gateways, and even if Scarlett may be a tiny bit confused about what's happening, I don't know if she will be confused, but you're always going to build units here, right? Because she's checking, like, hey, you're a 2-base Protoss, and you have 4 gateways, so I don't care if this is DTs, Zealots, Stalkers, or Glaive. I need units here, and yeah, that is exactly what Scarlett is going to produce. Trigger is going to blink across the minerals here. Scarlet already has a Zergling, will spot a lot of these Stalkers, and yeah, at this point, it is just job for Scarlet to crank out as many units as humanly possible. And if she does that, she's going to be fine.
Yeah, obviously, have to still take good trades and everything, but this is a great start, because if you just start cranking units, it's going to be difficult for the Protoss to overwhelm you. Obviously, with very good blinks and good micro, perhaps there is a possibility there.
Oh, Observer, don't lose it.
Oh my god, it goes down. Wow.
That's bad, man, because it's so nice to have that permanent high ground vision and obviously push back the creep a little bit as well. Now we still have that creep tuber on the right side. Like, that's low-key a disaster to lose the Observer there. You may not think that the Observer is that important in a Stalker against a Roach Link fight, but I think it truly matters.
I'm with you. Just, it's so unnecessary as well. It did not need to be where it was. Scarlet's already dropping transfusions. Using these Lings to tank, letting the Lings kind of take the damage while the Roaches deal the damage from behind for the most part. And if she can keep the Roach Ravager alive while the Lings are kind of those sacrifices, I think that's the real key for Scarlet. If she just gets enough Roach Ravager up, she's going to be golden. That's a scary corrosive vial for Trigger to have to dodge from. Oh my goodness, he is walking into these vials, but so far okay.
The Blink Micro has actually been really good. Scarlet has already lost 32 Zerglings and a Roach. Trigger has lost nothing. The only unit he's lost so far in this entire game is the Observer. Now, of course, he is a 2-base Protoss. He does finally bleed up the Protoss, so he needs to find crazy good trades, and he needs to keep this up for a little while. It is so painful that we're still battling on creep here, right? There should have never been creep. Does pick up one of those active creep tumors there on the top side. I think it's the creep that's really saving Scarlet here, because Trigger's micro was actually excellent. I kind of like the build, and he has only lost a single Stalker, but you have to respect the Zerg unit so much more on creep than you do off creep. And he's realizing it, and he's rebuilding the Observer now, but that's just painful, Waddy.
Just so far down the line from what it would have been, right? Is now extra Roach is still pouring now. A couple Stalkers over here. Well, I mean, I guess why not? A few Lings. I love that Scarlet doesn't overreact to it, but at the same time, it looks as though Trigger is going to go over here. So he moves in much more aggressive than he has been. Obviously means a few Stalkers go down, but it looked as though he got a decent amount of Roach Ravager for it. These Stalkers are still about over there, so just going to have to go deal with those still as Scarlet. And the army supplies are now dead even. Yeah, I mean, kinda.
Yeah, I mean, the Queens don't really have a lot of energy anymore. New Observer is about to show up. We have a Zealot in the mix as well. Stalker still microing incredibly well. Trigger has only lost 8 Stalkers during the entirety of this battle. Meanwhile, Scarlet has now officially lost over 100 units. Sure, many of them were Zerglings, but these numbers are going to start adding up. Can Trigger deny a couple of these Roaches that are so low in HP of morphing into Ravagers? I feel like that'd be a very big deal, right? Just 1 or 2 shots is all it takes. The first one gets denied, the second one finishes up. I think that's a big deal for Scarlet.
Yeah, every single Ravager counts. Biles are so important to stop this Stalker force being able to kind of come up the ramp easily. I mean, this is the only access point for the Stalkers, right? So if you can consistently bile this ramp and stop the Stalkers moving up it, you give yourself time. The problem is Scarlet's inefficiency is adding up, and she's been mining the same amount as Trigger all this time as well. So that's a big problem too. As we do see the Roach Ravage, at least now in a bit more of a concave, and it feels like Trigger can't really break up the ramp any longer. Has Scarlet finally got a stop on this, or is Trigger still going to find more? He's still coming through again, utilizing that Blink Micro to be able to move up and get rid of a few Lings for free. And now we're going to go blinking in, so Trigger believes he does have enough to make this fight happen. Corrosive Files are going to be dodged away from, and Trigger full sending it in right now. He's going to have Blink off cooldown in a second. These Queens have lasted a lifetime, but now we blink on top of the Ravages, and this feels as though Trigger is getting it done.
Can Trigger warp in a few more Stalkers? Yes, he absolutely can. 4 more Stalkers have been warped in. We blink forward one more time on top of the Ravages, and absolutely fantastic Blink Stalker Micro is going to carry Trigger to a victory, and he stops the streak of Scarlet. What a win. The 2 base Blink Stalker are in. All right, make some notes, Wardy. Trust Trigger with your life when it comes to microing Stalkers. Don't trust him with an Observer, because I don't know how we lost that first ops and then just microed Stalkers almost to perfection for 2-3 minutes straight.
Madness, absolute madness, and we do get to go to a game 4. It's been a while, Roddy. We have had, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3-0s in a row. The only 3-1 we've had all day was Hero Marine Hearthstone. That was our first match of the day, so it's been a little while, but we're going to finally get to a game number 4 once again. Trigger forces it with the Blink all in and gets it done. So we're going to go to Alcyone, bigger map here for this 4th map.
Yeah, I didn't really want to mention it, mate, because I've been a total jinx in that regard. My first cast was last Sunday. I was with Bio, and it was a shorter day. We had 6 series, all 6 3-0. One of them was a 4-0, but started off 1-0 in the upper bracket, so that was a 3-0. Then the second day was on Thursday with Bio Wolf, and I had a grand total of 8 series, and I think 4 of them were 3-0. So 10 out of 14 series I casted were 3-0. That's really sad, because all the other days I'm co-streaming. I'm just leaning back in my chair over here, and I'm having the time of my life, man. Like, I'm watching the craziest games, the funnest stuff, the coolest comebacks, and then I'm casting, and it's like, yeah, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. But at least we had some fireworks. Like, that game on Oceanborn was insane, and I always love watching. I mean, it's always fun to cast StarCraft, but it's slightly more fun when you get a little more of it.
Absolutely, and it's great to see an extra map here. Of course, this is our second last series of the night, Scarlet versus Trigger, and after this, Future versus Estrella, as we knock the top 4 down to the top 3 here in the Americas region, ready for tomorrow's final day. 2 best-of-5s, 2 best-of-7s across EU and Americas tomorrow, and crown 2 champions. Gonna be a lot of fun. So is the CVP as it's heating up a little bit, because we have had a bounce back. In the bottom left, now actually losing her first map in quite a while in this event. It's going to be the Blue Zerg from the Shopify Rebellion, Scarlet.
Her first map loss since the second game she played in the event. That was 5 series ago and over 14 maps ago.
I was going to say like 3 weeks ago at this point or something as well.
In the top right side of Alcyone, bringing back a classic. I do believe that build is from Goblin. I know he's good friends with Goblin, who had a fantastic run in the European regionals. So I'm sure he'll get a thank you. It is the man who's representing Basilisk, hailing from Canada as well. It's Trigger. All Canadian upper bracket final, by the way. Where are the Americans at, Waddy?
Great question. Where are they at?
In the lower bracket.
In the lower bracket, yeah. Easy answer, really, isn't it?
It's just like the map, you know? Canada on top, America below it.
Well, at least we know they're very geographical, you know, if nothing else.
In the round before, we lost the Latin American players. Like, they took this really serious. It's like, all right, that's the assignment. Canadians on top, Americans in the middle, Latin Americans underneath. Got it. Say no more. Good scout, by the way, by Trigger. What I have seen Protoss players do, and when I say Protoss players, I think of max packs, is if you know that the Zerg is opening up with a expanded the gold, you go double gate. Double gate is not that hot of an opening, but opening up with a few adepts, shading them to the other side of the map, starting to just delay the mining process of the gold, find a few drones, force out a lot of links. You can absolutely justify a slightly later Nexus. Trigger, however, does not want to do that. I'm expecting oracles into something aggressive, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is kind of the expectation, I think, at this point. I don't think Trigger's going to be super comfortable. I mean, Scarlet playing a long game is kind of scary, right? So, yes, we'll see. It's been an interesting series from a proxy hatch, the blink all in. Everyone's bringing out the builds. Of course, this is the time to upper bracket finals. I mean, this is, guaranteeing your slot in that winners stage in Dallas, which is a big deal. So it's time to bring out anything and everything you've got.
Yep. Probe is going to check. Scarlet, by the way, unlike some of the other Zergs that we've seen, doesn't transfer that many drones to the gold. Eh? You've seen some Zerg players that if they do take this hatch as their first hatch, that they immediately grab 8 drones that by the moment that hatch is done, you can saturate the gold. Scarlet has not done that. Left 16 drones in her main, and she's just going to play the game from here on out. It's funny because they both have reasons to be aggressive. Scarlet can be aggressive because you can say it's very difficult to defend 3-4 mineral lines if this is where your natural is. Trigger can also make a case for being aggressive, whereas like it's going to be easy for me to find damage, so I should actually be aggressive. Not totally certain where this game is going to go, buddy. Link count already up to 12. That is worth keeping an eye on.
Yep, it may very well just keep on increasing to be aggressive with, but there's a handful of drones, so just going to stop that link count for the moment. A couple of adepts make their way across. As link speed finishes, these adepts do need to be careful. They're going to shade backwards right now. Hopefully they don't get baited into sticking around. Doesn't look like they will. Looks like they're being nice and safe, backing away.
Well, I don't know if they're safe though. That's a lot of Zerglings in the center of the map. Could absolutely surround it. Scarlet is on the chase, and I do think she's got more than enough units. Maybe Trigger can cancel the shade and recall if he wants to do that. I mean, it's annoying to use recall this early, but it's also annoying to lose 2 adepts.
Yeah, Adept's a nice. Oracle misses those lings, doesn't turn around for them or anything, as the lings are going to get there just as the 3rd drops down. That is a cancel in the making, so already Trigger having a bad time. 3rd will be cancelled, and this investment from Scarlet into extra lings early currently paying off. Adepts are now going to get into the main. The Oracle will support as well, so these lings are not going to have the easiest time fighting. The Queens are going to stay on the Adepts, just going to focus via these down. We are going to get 1, we're going to get 2, and now the Oracle gets pushed back as well. Good defense from Scarlet thus far.
Yeah, excellent defense. Trigger really not getting a whole lot there. He's going to try to go up to 3 bases one more time. Has a relatively quick Twilight Council behind this. Scarlet doesn't really have any spores yet though, so it's still going to be difficult for her to keep all these drones safe. As 2 drones hatch in the natural, first one gets zapped down, second one gets becomes a spore, cancels the spore, becomes an Eva chamber. At the same time, Link's looking for the surround on the Adept, so Trigger finding a little bit of damage. Scarlet also finding her damage on the top side of the map. It's Chaos once more, Waddy. What is this?
Spore Crawler Forest is again shut down as the Oracle going to retreat away. 6 drones die, a lot of minerals spent on spores. Trigger going to keep the 3rd base alive this time. I mean, Scarlet's only on equal work account. More lings, melee upgrade starting, but Glaive's on the way now from Trigger as a switch up from him.
Glaives could be sick, right? If Scarlet doesn't have a Baning Nest. I mean, like, links with +1 melee in right amounts can obviously fight Adepts. All comes down to the engagement. Who has more surface area? Adepts obviously want to be very close to each other. Want to make sure that ideally they have their back up against the wall as well, so only a couple of links at a time can fight. It's going to be fun to see. But in the end, if you make this many Adepts, you want to shade them out. Trigger is going to try to hide it. He doesn't really put units on hold positions very well. He's now feeling that he is forced to reveal these Adepts because Scarlet just has a few too many links here. The Adept shade will finish up. And I hope that Scarlet is paying attention. Took her a little while to move those links away. Immediately drops the Roach one. I'd say that's a nice choice. I personally don't hate the idea of a Baneling Nest, but every other pro Zerg just seems to believe that Banelings are not the way. It's just too risky, too gimmicky, too expensive, and you can't count on the Baneling like you can count on the Roach.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of the times Baneling Nest would be okay, because the Adepts have quite a long distance to come to reinforce. Usually the issue with Banes is you use them up and then the Prism warped in more Adepts already. Glaives is done though, Rotron's not ready, neither is the Spine Crawl. The Lings do not really want to be part of this fight. The drones have to pull away, and this is the damage just adding up. Scarlet invested into a bunch of Lings, but they're not going to help now, and yeah, this is the problem. Just the gold base is going to get wiped out, and Scarlet has a bunch of drones and queens over here that can't really do anything. Roach is on the way. Can we actually save this gold? It's kind of feeling like a no at the moment. It's not looking pretty, as Adepts are going to shade across to the natural, and there's nothing over here.
Not yet, but a bunch of Roaches are in production. Scarlet still has a few Lings walking around. I actually think that maybe Trigger could have gone. Oh, as he leaves a couple of Adepts behind at the goal, but those Adepts get picked off immediately. So now these Adepts absolutely need to do a little bit more, because it looked like potential game-ending damage, and it might still be as that shade gets cancelled. And a lot of these drones are in danger. A couple of them will fall immediately. -12 so far, Waddy. And Scarlet is just trying to recollect her forces. How many queens are remaining? Only 3. So that actually means dealing with these oracles is going to be really difficult too.
Well, Adept's going to get back on the gold, even more drones going down, and Trigger is on 60 workers behind it. +1 and Blink on the way. You know what this means. This means that Trigger is absolutely looking at a beautiful position in this game. The Adepts are still being annoying. Drones are still moving around between bases. These are all the things you don't want to have to be kind of sit and deal with still at this point as, well, Adepts jump into the main, drones pull away from the main. So much mine time lost. I mean, by the time we finally come across the map with Stalkers, I don't think Scarlet has much of a way to fight. I mean, this is going to be a nice run by because there's nothing over here. The Adepts warp in, but as soon as the Adepts are there, it becomes so much easier. Adepts on the gold as well. Just so many drones going down. It's just absolutely non-stop here from Trigger.
Yep, Trigger might actually have to chrono boost his gateways a little bit, but if you have 4 gate resonating glaive adept, it shouldn't be that scary to deal with a few lings on the other side of the map. It is impressive that Scarlet managed to find 11 probes there. Where are these oracles at, by the way? I feel like they've been chilling for a little while. They've kind of just been bouncing between bases. Did the Adepts take out any of the spore crawlers? No, that did not happen. So impressive link counter by Scarlet. Kind of keeps her alive. I mean, I'm not loving her position. I'm sure that C's not loving her position. Does get one of the oracles. Without the link counter, it felt absolutely game over. The link counter gives her a little bit of time to maybe get out one more big army. And at least Scarlet has +1 melee.
That's true. The lings are going to be a little bit better than you might think. And Scarlet's army size is, I guess, reasonable, but it's 2 immortals here. Some corrosive bars drop down. Is Trigger just going to run forwards? There's a few lings here right now.
Though. Like, I feel like Trigger doesn't really need to be here. I know he's done a lot of damage, and it might be alright, but it'd be so sad to lose immortals for nothing. As Trigger still just feels that he's got the right amount of units, but the first immortal has fallen. Reinforcements have arrived for the Protoss, as another Stalker shows up, another immortal. Trigger's up 17 workers. Being there without a War Prism feels a little crazy to me. I guess that's what it is with the young kids, Waddy. They just always want to battle. They always want to move out. And Trigger gets away with it for now.
Yeah, it was a scary moment or two, but I think realistically he was fine. Maybe if you lose both molds, it's sad, but even then you're up so many workers. As long as you're not going to die to an immediate push through, and I just don't think Scarlet ever had the units for that. As now we see Trigger setting up in the center, ready to kind of send it.
It is worth pointing out, though, that Trigger does not have a bunch of cannons and batteries. So if he would take a really bad fight, then you're actually incredibly vulnerable to a Ling Roach counterattack. Scarlet only has 43 drones, but what Scarlet does have is +1 melee and a gold. So Trigger still needs to be a bit careful. Another Ling counterattack is going to get on top of the battery, and Trigger is not going to turn around. He just wants to keep on battling. Like, I know that this game is like almost over, Waddy, but I'm starting to get a bit worried for Trigger, because this can actually get incredibly chaotic.
I mean, we're fighting real deep on creep as well. Corrosive Vials are going to be an issue. Drones are pulling. Scarlet can afford to, I guess, pull the drones because she's just all or nothing on this defense. She will get rid of every single immortal. Now it's going to be Blink Stalkers. Can they micro their little butts off to try and save the day? Well, there's now Lings in the natural expansion continue to hunt probes, and we're having to keep on warping in against this. We're going to run into the main, recall home, and Scarlet will live for a little while longer, and will continue to deal damage here because, yeah, we've got these Lings still active.
Maybe hold position on the Zerglings would be awesome with all the probes clumped up under the simulator. In the end, the Trigger is fine, but he is down a little bit in army supply, has lost his battery here, so he needs to be careful. Sometimes Trigger just needs to take a tiny moment for himself, right, and realize that he's done so many things right in this game that it's okay to slow the game down a tiny bit. Now he's got the right amount of Stalkers, though, to blink forward, and it's only Ravages and Roaches, no Zerglings to worry about, and I believe that we are going to Game 5 Body for the first time today as Queens make it to the front lines, but there really is no battle anymore. Queens show up a little too late. +2 is about to finish up. Scarlet, after winning 13 games in a row, is going to lose 2 maps in a row, and we are treated here. This is an epic best of 5.
Yeah, fast-going games, but with a whole bunch of different ways of it playing out, loads of different strategies, and Game 5 it will be as Trigger ties it up. Scarlet looked so good games 1 and 2, but Trigger mixing it up big time for games 3 and 4. Great composure to bring it back in the series, and now we get to go to a final map. You're right, for the first time today, a game number 5. That's freaking exciting, man, because we were just talking about all the 3 zeros, and now we get to go all the way to Game 5. Amazing. So
and
that's awesome.
And it's such an important series, right? This is not one of these series where it's like, oh, okay, even if you win, then the next opponent is going to be so strong that, yeah, you get a bit of extra money. No, the winner here gets a guaranteed seat into the winner's stage of the ESL Masters in Dallas, and that changes everything. That means you don't have to start in the open bracket. Means you don't run into Cerro and stuff too early. Just have a few more lifelines. You get to play games on stage. And we know that the lower bracket in America, it's obviously not going to be easy. The loser of this series is not guaranteed to just be back in the grand finals and lock up top 2. Because we still got Future there and we still have Australia there. So this game 5 on Ghost River is a very, very important between these two. What a turn of events, man. It really looked like Scarlet was just kind of untouchable, so dominant, in control. And now all of a sudden it feels that Trigger is the one who is not untouchable, but is setting the pace and taking great fights, choosing the right build orders and finding great fights.
Yeah, no, complete turnaround in the series from one way to the other. And you're right, it's so build order dependent. And going into game 5, we're going to be playing on Ghost River. It's a map we've talked about a little bit. This could be fascinating. There's definitely potential for some cheesy kind of super aggressive things on this map, even if it becomes difficult to kind of defend, to kind of attack in later on. I mean, I think we're in for a treat of a game 5. The way that these two have been bringing out the different strats, it's been a very intriguing series, and both fighting for that grand final position already.
I don't know if it was you casting, Wadi, but I was co-streaming in the very beginning of Europe. And did you cast a game between Drogo and Lambo on this map?
Ooh, I might have
Drogo
done.
opened up with Tempest, double Stargate Tempest.
Oh, yeah, I think I did cast that one.
Yeah, I thought it was you. I actually loved that build. And when I saw this map, the first thing I thought of was like, I'm going to build Tempest, man. This is such a good map for Tempest. And then every single game I play Tempest, it just fails horribly. Like, I can't battle my way through queens. And by the time I can finally kill some queens in the Spore Crawler, it's either Mass Hydra out my front door or Corruptors are out. And I'm like, Tempest suck, guys. And then I see Drogo do it. And I'm like, trust me, I've done this many times, guys. Tempest suck. And Drogo just gets in the sickest spot, kills drone after drone, nice recall, wins the game as the underdog against Lambo. I love that build. I thought it was a very fun game to watch.
Yeah, I wasn't actually casting that. I remember watching it because I remember watching Drogo win. I was like, yeah, with the builds as well. Love it. Yeah, that was really right at the start of Europe as well, like day 2 or something. Day 1, day 2, something along those lines. Madness. All right, well, we are just waiting for players, obviously, 4 games down. They're going to take a little break before game 5. Big match. Absolutely expected.
Normal.
No surprises. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's such a big moment, especially with the terrifying players that are still left in the lower bracket. It's the guaranteed money, but it's the winner stage ticket that is so incredibly important here. And after 4 wild games, a proper roller coaster of emotion, maybe not like the longest games, but these kind of games are so mentally draining, where it's just like, what's happening? What's happening? Why are you doing this? And Trigger missing the Mutas in game 1, having to deal with the Ravages in his face in game 2, but turning it around with some, especially the game 3 build, the Goblin Classic, 2-base Blink Stalker all in. And in game 4, I was a bit worried when he shaded away from the gold, because I kind of thought he was just going to stand there. And Adepts may not be known for their ability to kill buildings, but if you have 14 Adepts killing a hatch, the hatch falls rather quickly. So when he decided to shade away, I was like, that, I mean, might work out, right? Because you still have so many Adepts. But it's also risky, because it felt that going for the guaranteed kill and knocking Scarlet back to 2 bases would have been a safer call.
Yeah, and if you do knock down that gold, you probably just get to go back home. He's already like building up nicely at home. It's very difficult for Scarlet to get enough units and production going right at that point, so maybe it would have been the easier way to get it done. But hey, it all worked out in the end, and now we get to go into one final game between these two. In the top right-hand corner, the Blue Zerg from the 2-0 lead to 2-2, looking to find a win once again. It is Scarlet from the Shopify Rebellion.
And in the top left side, we are looking at the main base of the young Canadian Protoss, who is dreaming of the day that he can call himself a North American StarCraft 2 champion. Representing Basilisk, this is Trigger. We often say that momentum is a real thing, and I do think we can say that the momentum is on Trigger's side at this point.
Oh, absolutely. You win the last 2 with kind of, again, creative builds as well. So as Scarlet, you don't even get to kind of settle into this game 5. You've got to be worried from the very get-go. That's rough.
Ghost River is such a weird map where you mentioned it earlier. You're kind of forced to expand in a certain way. I guess the only real option you have, besides a hidden base, of course, if you really want to be very funky, is you can take your 4th base in the center or you take it underneath your main. But pretty much 99% of the time you take it underneath your main, because going all the way to the bottom center just feels so far away. And it's been a long time that we had a StarCraft 2 1v1 map that was played on the ladder and also by professionals, where you were just forced to expand like this. Like, there's no other option. This is where your natural is. This is your 3rd. And for your 4th base, you only have one choice. Like, it's been a long time.
I know. Maps have been like all about giving you choice for a long time now. This map's like, no, you get no choice. You expand where you meant to expand. Figure out other ways to make the map interesting. The map kind of does that to some extent. Like I say, it definitely kind of extends games, despite it not necessarily being the map where you kind of glance at it and think long games happen. So it does some weird stuff, that's for sure.
What happened to our health fountain, by the way?
Yeah. Well, I feel like after watching nobody use it across the course of like 45 best of threes, the health fountains were decidedly cancelled.
You know, Wings of Liberty Beta Roddy would have loved the health fountain, mate, because I came in with my Warcraft 3 mindset of every unit I make is one that I have to save, and I was taking all my Zealot fights because every game was 2-gate proxy against 2-gate proxy, so it's just a bunch of Zealots fighting each other, and I would micro all my low HP Zealots back to my main, but I would keep on losing, and I'm like, I don't get it, man, like I'm killing Zealots, I'm saving my own, but in the end it just got A-moved, and at one point I was like, you know what, I think like trying to save every single unit on low HP and not using it anymore is not the play. But if you would have given me the health fountain, Wardy, I would have been the king of the beta.
It was so funny in the TLMC tournament, and it was like, we got to like the final day, I was like, guys, no one's used the health fountain. I was like, I showed the guys, I was like, look, I'll give you $25 whoever heals a unit with the health fountain first. I think it was Dark replies, like, I don't love my units that much. I was like, oh, okay, sorry.
Nice save, by the way, on the Overlord here by Scarlet. Very close call. That Overlord was one hit away from dying. Unlucky for Trigger. Well, open up with a very quick Twilight Council once more, and he's going to go straight into Blink. Now, this doesn't have to be the same build as Amphion. It could. It does not have to be.
Would you like it if you did the same thing, or do you think Scarlet can adapt to find the answer?
It's hard because you do have to worry about some of these choke points here. I don't know, man. It's been so long that I've seen that build, and I got it. IV micros half as well as he did on Amphion. Yeah, I like it. But, oh, Scarlet fires up a lair 3 minutes and 48 seconds into the game. And that's feisty. The Scarlet had just... Scarlet, her alarm bells must be going off a little bit, no? Because in what normal PvZ do you see two Stalkers run to the other side of the map? I mean, you could be thinking like, ah, yeah, this is just Ghost River things. Or maybe Scarlet feels that all she needs to get is a road speed. And if she can just get road speed, it's going to be a whole lot easier to deal with this. I don't know.
Very, very intrigued. I mean, maybe because of the roach speed, you can take much better fights against the Stalkers. You can get the roaches into range a lot more easily, chase down a low HP Stalker a little bit more than you would be able to otherwise. So perhaps that's the idea, but I mean, that's such a big investment. And it takes such a long time to get up to as well. They're about to finish. Overlords are preparing, so she knows she's got to get ready to just spam roaches.
Yeah.
This just has to be roach speed. Roach speed and roaches on the way.
Do you think a spine or something? Maybe some extra queens? It feels that queens are very useful in these battles because they just gather up all that energy over time. Trigger already running to the other side of the map. It is a 5-minute game. It really does feel like we're bringing some old school tactics back here in this incredibly important game 5. Sniping that first creep tower would be massive. Trying to get a drone instead. Does not get the drone, but will get the first roach. Yeah, there goes the Observer Wadi. As we said, Trigger 10 out of 10 micro on Stalkers. Not very good in keeping Observers alive.
No, Observer's not a speciality with Scarlet. I mean, she's trying to get Roach Ravager up, but losing Roach Ravager, losing Queens already. These units are just...
That's bad.
I mean, the units just aren't here because she invested into the lair, right? So, I mean... Yeah, now she's going to get roach speed very soon, but she needs to be able to hold on against this. She also doesn't have Ling speed this game, Roddy, so the Lings are way worse than they were last time as well.
We're not even going to build any Zerglings. I mean, the Lynx, it is kind of pointless. He does fire up 8 more. I don't know why. Maybe she was just out of gas because he was spending all of her gas on the Ravages. But yeah, the Lynx are completely worthless here. Slow Zerglings on the edge of creep against Stalkers with Blink. That's not going to help. The fact that she has a creep tumor, by the way, now creeping down that ramp on the left side is awesome. Trigger realizing that, hey, Observers are very useful. I should go ahead and build another one. I feel like it's promising for Trigger, but Roaches with speed, I mean, they are somewhat comparable to Stalkers, especially on creep. On creep, I really do like these kind of fights for the Roaches, and that creep on the left side could really start making an impact. Scarlet is still building Lynx. Do you think she's aware of the fact that she never started Zergling speed?
I don't know. She is slowly counter-attacking. They're going to arrive on the other side of the map and start hitting over there. So put some pressure on Trigger to look back home. He did get a full wall off up, and we're still going to start killing a gateway. Forces warp-ins there as well. His hatchery is extremely low, so Scarlet's potentially in danger of losing her production from this position. As again, just using this Roach Ravager best she can, dropping some transfusions as well. Corrosive Files Gonna come in. Stalker actually carried to the right. The Lings break through on the other side. They're gonna start surrounding Stalker, so that's fun. Trigger's obviously microing his heart out over here, but doesn't want to let those Lings get too much done.
The greatest slow circling counterattack as Trigger now uses a recall. I don't know how many units. That's actually a lot of Stalkers that he has recalled for a couple of slow circlings. The slow circlings killed 2 Stalkers and killed the gateway. But that will not help Scarlet, keeping her hatchery alive. And immediately her response is to drop the infestation pit. I'm feeling, what about the Robo Bay here? Like, what if you take your gases, you build a Robo Bay? Playing 2 base Protoss with a Robo and a Robo Bay against a 2 base Zerg. That seems like a dream spot. Trigger says, nope, that's way too complicated. I need more Stalkers, and I guess that's a play too.
More Stalkers.
Wait, he lost the second observer too, by the way, Wadi.
Oh no, really? Didn't see that one. That's
No, neither did I, but it happened.
the Trigger observer micro is real, as we do have our Stalkers. Looking to fight. I mean, the army supply is good for Trigger. This is where Scarlet struggles because she doesn't have the extra hatchery of production. She's being pushed back into a corner. Slow Lings have been probably the most successful part of this for Scarlet, as Trigger eats a little bit of a supply block there, but we are just losing way too much on this other side of the map.
So difficult for Scarlet on this specific map to get a wraparound as well. The infestation pit is online. She's going to fire up a couple of infestors. That could be cool, but will those fungals ever make it to the battlefield in time? Because it's starting to look incredibly good for the Canadian Protoss player that's representing Basilisk as he blinks forward, the ultimate sign of dominance, gets on top of the Ravagers, gets on top of the Queens, and Scarlet is just running out of units here. GG gets called. The reverse sweep in the upper bracket finals of the ESL.